So let's get started with a very quick introduction to Active Directory. So Active Directory is directory service used to manage Windows networks. That's the basic definition. In Active Directory, almost everything is an object. A user is an object. Then you have computer objects, you have group objects, and so on. So the idea is that everything is an object. The information about them is stored on the network. And users, machines, administrators can request the information easily. Microsoft defines Active Directory as, and I quote, Active Directory enables centralized secure management of an entire network, which might span a building, a city, or multiple locations throughout the world. It is the core of enterprise. Still, it is the core of an enterprise. I mean, to be honest, Microsoft has been trying to replace sort of Active Directory, on-prem Active Directory with Azure AD, or which is now known as Entra ID. In fact, there was a time, I would say from the years 2019 to 2021, couple of years, it looks like that it looked like that Active Directory security took a backseat. Microsoft's tone was very clearly, I mean, if you look at Microsoft's blog posts on proxy logon attack, that was an attack a few years ago against on-prem Exchange servers, they would say, yeah, on-prem Exchange servers are vulnerable to this. But have you checked out Exchange Online? That's not a problem there. So it very much looked like that if Microsoft has abandoned, the messaging was pretty clear. If you want your enterprise to be secure, move to Entra ID. Start using Azure. That messaging is still there, but it has been toned down a lot. Interestingly, you would also see, and that is the configuration in the lab as well, the last Active Directory forest functional level was Server 2016. Since then, there was nothing, no forest functional level 2019, no forest functional level 2022. So in fact, even in the lab, which has up-to-date patches and Server 2022 machines, the forest functional level is still 2016. So for close to 10 years, there is an upcoming Server 2025 and Forest Functional Level 2025, which was GA, I mean, made generally available just in November 24, just 3 months ago. So we have not moved to it yet. It would take time. So for 10 years, almost, no updates to the basic forest functional level. So the messaging was clear that Active Directory is obsolete, move to Entra ID, which they seem to have abandoned. Probably because I'm not sure why, to be honest. It's a huge organization. Who am I to comment on them? But but probably the reason was some high profile compromises, including Microsoft's own compromises. Microsoft got hacked multiple times that included a use of Azure. But coming back to this, uh, excuse me. Coming back to this, what does Active Directory look like? This is what it looks like. It provides manageability, security, and interoperability between different objects. Could be users, Windows servers, Windows clients, network devices, and so on. There are four interesting components of Active Directory that I would like to quickly discuss. Please note that our focus is mostly on basics of hands-on red teaming and Active Directory security, that is enterprise security in total. So we are not going to discuss a lot of Active Directory stuff. That is, for example, what is a primary domain PDC role, let's say, what is the importance of NetBIOS or DNS, etc. That is something that we are not going to discuss. So schema. Schema is something that defines objects and their attributes. For example, what would be the attributes of a user object? Their first name, last name, their address, telephone, their department. What would be the attributes of a machine account? their IP address, their build level, uh, their operating system type, and so on. So that's what schema defines. What would be the attributes of a user? Now, by definition, an Active Directory network may be spread across the globe. So there must be a query and index mechanism to find other users and other machines. So yes, there is a component query and index mechanism that provides searching and publication of objects and their properties. Where is this information stored? On domain controllers. It is the GCs or global catalogs on domain controllers that contains information about every object in the directory. Now, an production Active Directory network would always have at least more than one domain controller. So there must be a replication service so that domain controllers can synchronize information amongst each other. So that is a service provided by replication service. So we are going to we are going to abuse these components later on. What is the structure of an Active Directory network? Purely from an administrative perspective, and I'm not talking about sites here, but from an administrative perspective, forests, domains, and organizational units, that is OUs, are the basic building blocks of any Active Directory structure. So you would have a forest that may contain one or more domain. Please note that a forest, which is a security boundary, uh, should be considered whenever you hear the word Active Directory. Think of it as a forest, not as a domain. All right, you would see, unfortunately, a lot of times when someone hears the word Active Directory, they think of it as a domain. Think of it as a forest. Why? What is the difference? Uh, for example, a lot of identity security products work absolutely only or work correctly only if you place them in the forest root, because it is an assumption that when we are talking about Active Directory, we would be placing something in the forest root. Many of the attack tools that we see that we are going to use, some of them work only if you run the attack from the forest root, which is not going to be true all the time. So please keep this in mind, that whenever you hear the word Active Directory, you think of it as a forest. Another reason for that is because forest is a security boundary, not a domain. For example, if you're in this forest, domain 1 is compromised, an attacker can move to domain 2 and it would be working as intended. A single domain compromise in an entire forest means that the entire forest is gone for good. That's why when you think Active Directory, when you hear Active Directory, think of it as a forest.